Hey, what's going on, my friends? Listen, I want to welcome each and every one of you all to the coaching session, the leadership class coaching session. My name is Barry E. Knight. I'm the founder and CEO of BEK Impact Company. We are a leadership and organizational development company, and I am so glad you're here. Before I get into today's content, do me a favor and click the subscribe button. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content and videos like you're going to get on today. Also, click the notification bell so you'll know when new videos are being released. I also want to encourage you to go and purchase my new book called The Gift Called Leadership: How the Leader's Presence Empowers Others to Succeed. Go to thegiftcalledleadership.com, thegiftcalledleadership.com. Purchase the book. It's only $22.99. Purchase it for yourself. If you're an executive leader, you have a team, I encourage you to get it and invest in your team's life. It's going to transform how you lead, how your team performs and their productivity, and also the impact that you're having for your organization. So in today's coaching session, I want to talk about a topic simply: how are you showing up as a leader? I want you to ask yourself that question. As always, I have notes here, so if I'm looking down, I'm simply looking at my notes. But before we begin, my friends, I want you to think about that. How do you show up as a leader? As a matter of fact, let me just ask, how do you show up as a human being? Because as you're showing up as a human being, so you are also showing up as a leader. If you have issues in your personal life, most likely, if you're not dealing with those, you're going to show up with some remnant of those issues in your professional life. I know as you're listening to me, you're probably thinking of some times that has actually happened. I know it's happened for me. And so I want to ask you that question again. And I want you to think about it as I'm talking to you, of how do you show up as a leader? Now, if you have not purchased my book, I'd love for you to get that book, but the book is all about how leaders show up. That's really the entire theme of what I was writing and trying to convey to when you show up as a high-level, high-impact leader, or even take away leader and just say a human being, because again, how you show up in your humanity is how you show up in everything. It's how you show up in your marriage, as a parent, as a friend, as a son or daughter, whatever it is you are. Who you are in your humanity is going to dictate how you show up in every aspect of your life. And if you can get that healing, if you can be built up and energized and even have some self-awareness and some self-check, it's going to impact every other area of your life. So again, I'm asking you, answer the question for yourself. How are you showing up as a leader? How are you showing up as a human being? One of the things that I often say when I have opportunities to speak, and it's written many times in the book as well, is whether your organization is healthy, dysfunctional, or stuck, it always acts like its leader. Say it again. Whether your organization is healthy, dysfunctional, or whether it's stuck, you're saying, man, Barry, we've been at this level for the past year and we can't seem to move past. My friend, I want to be your friend, and I want to tell you the truth because I love you enough to tell you the truth, that your organization always acts like you. Your team is always acting like you. It mimics how you show up. It mimics your belief system. It also mimics your limiting beliefs. If you have a team and there's dysfunctional, it's funny, a lot of executives call me and say, Barry, I need you to come here and fix my team. They're just dysfunctional. They're just, out of order. There's a lot of infighting and silos being created. And I'll say, ma'am, sir, I want to tell you and hate to tell you, but want to tell you that your team and organization is acting just like you. Dysfunction and all of that begins by a decision that either is not being made or a decision that has been made, or even a decision that is delayed being made. If you keep that one person on your team that everybody knows needs to be fired, and you do not make the decision to let that person go, you are the cause. You are the catalyst for your organization's dysfunction. And again, I love you enough, Mr. and Mrs. Leader, I love you enough to tell you the truth. I know this hurts, right? They say truth hurts, doesn't it? And absolutely does. But this is all about, again, how are we showing up? A lot of decisions struggle making decisions, concise and timely decisions, because they don't show up with this confidence. And I'm probably all over the place, and that's fine. We'll in other videos, we're going to talk more about this, but I want to get to my notes here. And in the book, The Speed of Trust by Stephen M.R. Covey, he writes that a person has integrity when there is no gap between intent and behavior, when he or she is whole, seamless, the same, inside and out. Now, I know it's written on the screen, but I want to read it again. Again, in the book, Speed of Trust by Stephen M.R. Covey, he writes that a person has integrity when there is no gap between intent and behavior. We're talking about how are you showing up? When he or she is whole, seamless, the same, inside and out. And so with that, my friend, I want you to think about those times in your life where you feel and notice the gap. This is how we show up. And sometimes only we're aware, only we know about the gap. And then there's those other times where we're trying to hide it, but others really know that there is a gap. They know there's a gap. They can see it, that there's a gap in how we're thinking. Or as I mentioned before, there's a gap in the delay of decisions. In other words, everybody sees that this decision needs to be made, but they see that gap of fear. And by the way, integrity is not always just doing the right things. Let me say that differently. It is always doing the right thing, right? But it's not integrity meaning I don't cheat. I always tell the truth. That is integrity. But integrity is also doing what you need to do and saying what needs to be said, when it needs to be done, when it needs to be said. So I can be a truthful guy and leader. I can respect everyone. I can honor the human spirit and treat everyone at the highest level of dignity. But when I'm in charge of leading people, I want you to hear me very closely. When I have an assignment to help people move from point A to a successful point B, and I don't show up in a way with integrity to say, here's what needs to be done, even if it makes people mad, even if people get upset with me, I have enough integrity, even if people who were close to me are not as close to me anymore. Those that used to laud me and speak well of me, if I don't get that anymore, I have enough integrity to say, listen, this is the right decision I need to make, and this is the decision that I'm going to make right now. That also is integrity. When you go home and you start thinking that burden, oh man, I need to make that decision. Oh my gosh, I need to confront that person. That is a part of how you're showing up. That is a part of your integrity. I feel like I'm all on you and I'm pushing you, but my friend, this is so important. I'm so fired up and passionate about this particular talk to you. Is how are you showing up? I want to go back to the question. How are you showing up as a leader? Again, do you have that conversation with that person and you're afraid to say what you really need to say because you're afraid you might offend them, and they leave your office and you put your hand on your head and you're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I just tell them? And then you have to go back out to everyone else who's saying, did you do it? Did you do it? Did you let them go? Did you say what they needed to hear? And you have to look at them and say, no, I didn't. How are you showing up? How are you showing up? And the great thing about what I'm talking about is just not in leadership. It's leading or leadership in a business. It's also leadership in your family. It's leadership with your children, leadership with your spouse. Shucks, it's leadership with yourself. Are you making the decisions for yourself to make you a better human being? Are you doing the things? Are you making the sacrifices? Are you building the discipline muscle so that you can stay the course in what it is you're called to do, whatever God has put you on earth to do. Are you saying yes to it? How are you showing up to your vision? How are you showing up to your dream? How are you showing up to that aspiration that you've been longing for? Whether it's personal or professional, how are you showing up?